Tim, thanks so much for joining me today.
Absolute pleasure.
CEO of MYOB. You've got about 1 million small to medium businesses on your product. Primarily, that's a hard drive based product. There's a lot of changes going on right now in the whole internet and cloud space. What do you see as the future and possible challenges with businesses when it comes to this internet cloud computing and accounting space?
I'd also answer and ask the question, what are the opportunities? Because there are absolutely challenges, but there are massive opportunities with the cloud for small businesses. If I'm talking to a group of small businesses, I'll often ask, who knows what the cloud is? How many of you have part of your business running in the cloud? The response is generally quite low. If I then rephrase the question and say, how many of you use Gmail, Yahoo Mail or Hotmail, then the response is quite high. If I ask how many use online banking, then the response is quite high. So many businesses, small businesses, are using the cloud today and just don't realise that. Last year we added about 50,000 businesses to our cloud platforms and about another 50,000 to our desktop platforms. So we're absolutely seeing that shift, and we're seeing that right now. It is different for different categories, different applications. So for example, building a website is something that most people do online. Now 15 years ago they didn't. You'd author all the web pages on your desktop and then publish to the web. Now generally people just do that on a cloud-based platform, and certainly that's where our products in that category are sitting today. I believe that most traditional business tools that have been built for the desktop will move online. They'll start by those where there are many people that collaborate in the process, will be the first ones to go, because one of the core value drivers of moving to the cloud is the ability for lots of people to collaborate on one set of information. The next will be those that integrate lots of different sources of data, where some of that data can be automated and the integration of it can be automated. But ultimately, I think pretty much all business tools will sit in the cloud, and most businesses will run their entire business on cloud-based systems.
What time frame do you think, if you had a crystal ball and your druthers, because you're in the business of supplying some of these tools, what time frame on that statement, all applications in the cloud?
I would probably say we're a decade away from being there. There is a long adoption curve. So by the time all the applications are there, then you've still got to get businesses making that change and making that move. I think that we are at the end of an early adopter phase, starting to enter that mass market phase. But different technologies, if you look over time, some in 3 years have absolutely taken off. Others have waited around for a long period of time and then catapulted, and some have just followed a traditional adoption curve.
So it's really no different to internet banking, 10 or a dozen years ago, where it's like, we're not too sure about that, and today it's so prevalent.
Absolutely.
Who's got a checkbook anymore?
And that was one that almost went overnight. There was just a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, etc. And 2 years later, everyone was there. It was something that didn't replace, though. It was something that augmented and complemented the existing methods of banking. So you could migrate over time. And that is one of the lessons that we've learned through in building our solutions, that we want to have people be able to keep the options and opportunities that they have, the knowledge that they have, while also augmenting and adding, sort of complementing with the power of the cloud.
So 10 years' time, all current server-based, hard drive-based systems on the internet. What does that actually mean for the business person as far as running their business better, efficiencies, costs? What do you see as the benefits of that happening?
I think the first thing is that there's just greater efficiency. So you look at the way in which cloud-based platforms can integrate data, can use different sources of information. We start by looking at the process of gathering source data, putting that into an accounting system, the quality control that goes into that, and then the value add that can come out of the back end. So if I just start with the very first step there of actual data entry, we think that we can reduce the time spent on data entry by up to sort of 90%. So right then and there,
wow,
the majority of the time that the business owner spends today, because you open a desktop accounting system and look at an empty screen, and you've got a pile of bills here, and you start keying away. Depending on the business, that's 25 to 75% of the time they spend in one of those applications is simply entering data.
So data entry reduced dramatically because I'm presuming you're saying that the accounting system will connect to the incoming receipts and invoices, point of sale, client relationship. That's what?
Yeah, absolutely. So that you've received an invoice, it's got 100 line items of inventory that you bought, and it can be automatically populated into your accounting system, and you've just got to go through and check that it's been entered in.
Okay, so let's follow that through because I'm very much interested in how this affects the accounting profession.
Yep.
So business end data entry way low. We've now got live data on screen with less input time.
Yep.
Take it a bit further as far as what do I see as the business owner before I interact with my client, and what am I going to get out of that?
So as the accountant in practice, there are a number of things that you'll see. Firstly, you can work in the current period with your business. Right? So rather than waiting for last period's accounts, a couple of months on, going back and doing reviews, it allows you to be far more involved because you can look at your client's business in real time. Secondly, you can collaborate with them around the production of a good set of accounts. So your client who isn't quite sure how to code things, you've probably put some pretty clunky workaround processes in as to how to deal with different transaction types if they're uncertain or unsure. Instead of that, boom, right then and there, when they need you, you can be involved and help them get a better outcome. You know, small amount of your time, massive value add from your client's perspective.
Okay.
So you can participate in a better process. You then get a great trial balance. The opportunity for you, instead of wasting time on data input, data cleansing, etc., with this great trial balance, is what do you then do with it? How do you help them drive a better business? How do you help them look at that information objectively, set goals for the next year? That you can actually be a business partner with them, helping them achieve their business strategies.
Before we get to what an accountant can do to value add based on this newfound time, talk me through the compliance ramifications, if there are any. If we've got an efficient input end at the business, and right now it's a bit clunky where the accountant deals with the business, what's your estimate, if I'm hearing you right, of time decreased to prepare a set of accounts and annual financials compliance for an accounting firm with their clients on cloud accounting?
We've asked accountants that. So the information I'll give you is what we're being told by our clients, by accountants. It's in the order of about 40% of the time that they would spend today by having a streamlined automated process with integrated work papers and all of those components in the practice can be saved.
Okay, so 40% decrease in time, and the vast majority...
Scary if you're billing based on time.
Absolutely. If you're billing on value, that's a questionable thing as well. You know, what are they going to do here? Because I can see, as what you just described 2 minutes ago, great opportunity to add value to the client with real-time data.
Yep.
But the accounting businesses that don't do that, you know, where they are a compliant shop, they've got less time to prepare a set of accounts compliance, 40% less, you're saying. What are they going to do? Are they going to charge the same amount and pick up the margin? Are they going to reduce their headcount? Is their revenue reducing by 40%?
I think there'll be a combination of things. Firstly, compliance doesn't go down. Right? The requirements that the government puts out there, the complexity seems to keep building and building. So there is a lot of work in compliance. There's a lot of valuable work and valid work in compliance. And I think that will keep going up. So there will be more compliance work, and part of these efficiencies will simply be dealing with the increase in compliance work. But I do think that accountants need to sit back and have a look at where they see the future of their business, because I do think in that world that the value that gets added by compliance, and arguably there wasn't much value in doing all of the data re-entry.
I agree with that.
Ever, but there was time.
Yeah.
I do think that will go away. And so as an accountant, they can start to change the way in which they run their practice. They can decide to go out and try and attract more clients in because they're spending less time per client and they can get more work done. They can spend more time working on each relationship that they have. They could, if they wanted to, downsize the size of their staff and just stick with their existing client base and run a more profitable practice. I think different accountants will take different options, potentially based on the practice they're in, the stage in their professional career that they're at, the right answer will be different for different accountants.
So the accountants have got a couple of choices here. They can either promote cloud accounting, cloud computing, or they can sit back and wait for it to happen. Are you saying then this is going to happen whether they like it or not?
It will.
Right.
It will. Now, it might be a matter of years.
Sure.
So with an accountant who embraces this and goes out to their clients and says, I think this is a great thing and this is why, and there are some really compelling arguments why it's great for the SME, they may move their client base quite quickly. For those that resist it and openly say to their clients, I don't think you should trust that, there are concerns around A, B and C, and try and hold their clients on a desktop system, then there's probably a period of time where that will work. They do risk. That strategy is risky in my mind because you're swimming against a tide, and eventually the tide will overpower.
Yes.
Right? And it will take control. And at that point in time, you've potentially lessened your credibility with your clients, and you've pigeonholed yourself as somebody who is in a certain mindset and stuck in a certain way of working. So I think it's dangerous to swim against it. The other is to just say, I'm going to let natural forces take me here, and some clients will move to the cloud more rapidly, and others won't move for quite some period of time. And that's probably a safer strategy than trying to swim against the tide. It's still not what I would call, it's not a proactive strategy. I don't think that's really driving the practice and driving the business. But that's potentially what is right for many accountants, again, depending on where they're in the life cycle of their business.
And I suppose the savvy accounting firms, the marketing-orientated ones, will actually market this and see it as a point of differentiation.
Absolutely.
Ahead of the ones who have their head in the sand.
Absolutely. I mean, I was talking to a client a few weeks ago, and she has helped 10 of her clients build websites in the past month. It's a very simple thing, but she's been out there saying, here's what you have to do. She got on to one of our systems, MYOB Atlas. She built a website in about half an hour. She's now taken 10 of her clients through it.
And this is an accountant doing this?
This is an accountant.
Awesome.
And they're ecstatic. And she's changed she's changed the relationship she has with them in their mind. She's changed their perception of her as a business partner and a business advisor.
So what you're saying, Tim, is either way the accountant looks at it, there's change afoot.
There is. In
their client base, whether in the way that the client interacts with the accountant, whether they like it or not.
Yep.
This is just going to happen.
Yep.
And either embrace it, fight against it, roll it, whatever you're going to do, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, yep.
So let's say they put their head in the sand, which some accountants are very good at doing, and they do nothing. What's going to happen to that bunch, do you think?
Some of their clients will start to move to the cloud, and the accountant is saying, well, I'm not there. I still want you to send me a disk or email me a file of your books like you always have. Right? The client will still be able to do that. They'll be able to take a copy of their file from the cloud, attach it to an email and send it in. But what's not happening there is that the client isn't gaining the benefit of the accountant being involved through the process. So in the circumstances, again, where the client wasn't sure what to do, they coded something incorrectly because the accountant wasn't collaborating and involved, at the end of the financial period, the accountant's still going to send them an email saying, here are all the journal entries you need to make before closing off last period's books. That's time wasted for the business owner that they wouldn't have to do if the accountant was in the cloud.
No.
Right? So at that point in time, it's a matter of time when they're talking to one of their friends who also runs a business, talking about their relationship with their accountant, say, oh, it's great, I don't do that anymore. The relationship that accountant who's resisted that change has with their client has just been weakened, potentially to the point where they start losing some clients.
Yeah, and that's the reality.
Yeah.
So, MYOB with 1 million small to medium businesses.
Yes.
And I think it's about 6,000 or 7,000 accounting firms use your tools as well.
Yeah, in
Australia. What are you doing as far as a business to support this, antagonize it, whatever it is you're doing?
Yep.
My interest is of course the accounting profession. What are you doing to help them move to the cloud, migrate their clients? What is it that you guys are up to and doing?
Yep. So there's a few things that we're doing on different fronts. Firstly, for their clients, so for the small businesses out there, we've been developing cloud-based platforms, and we're developing what we call first generation and second generation. First generation are browser-based systems, so the client accesses the systems by logging in through a web browser. They are brand new systems that we've built from the ground up. There are lots of great benefits in them, but they're really targeted at new clients who are entering the accounting category for the first time, and targeted primarily at smaller businesses. MYOB AccountRight, which is our flagship product that has those million businesses on it, we're investing in the next generation of that such that the cloud simply turns on. Businesses don't need to migrate data, they don't need to learn new interfaces, new workflows, new nothing. And for the accountant, that means they don't have to be responsible for teaching them all of those new things. AccountRight's a very full-featured product that's been very successful over a long period of time because of that, and we are simply turning the cloud on. And the client will still have that same user interface, but all of the business logic and the data will be sitting in the cloud so that the accountant can also access it. We're obviously, with that change, putting a huge amount of training materials out there. We're running seminars, we're engaging directly with small businesses to help them make that change. So any accountant that has an MYOB, a client using MYOB's business products today, will be able to leverage that, be able to leverage the information, leverage the help and the ease with which we've made that transition take place. Moving to the practice side, so for the accountant themselves, we're also in the process of moving our practice suites to the cloud. So they will be able to run all of their practice tools, practice management, tax, client accounting, etc. on a cloud-based system, which will be great for their practice in terms of offering more flexible work arrangements and a whole raft of value to the practice and to their staff in the practice, but also looking at connecting the two. Mm-hmm. So that our cloud-based SME systems, if you like, have an underlying ledger for the entity, and our practice systems are also reading and writing to that entity. So it's what we call the concept of the common ledger. So there's only one ledger that both the business and the accountant are collaborating on. And that ledger will then connect to all other types of systems, other value-added tools, so that other vendors can get in and also provide service to the practice. So it's a pretty exciting time.
Sure.
And there's a lot on.
So the million-dollar question, when does the accountant and the general business get this?
So if all of those...
And Tim, can you give me the conservative answer?
Absolutely.
Rather than the dangle carrot answer.
Yeah. So all of these systems are coming out at different times, right? So MYOB Atlas is in the market, MYOB Live Accounts is in the market as our first generation cloud platforms. MYOB AccountRight Live, which is the second generation, which is the system that takes the existing desktop system and puts that in the cloud. It's currently in pilot. We're getting feedback from lots and lots of clients who are in that pilot. We aren't going to take it to market until we've been able to ensure that all of our pilot clients are having a great user experience. Because when we turn it on, it's going to be turned on to the world.
Sure.
So conservatively, that will happen this calendar year, so in 2012. Whether it happens in Q3, whether it happens in Q4, we're just going to judge it based. We get pilot feedback, we put a new build out there, we get more feedback, we put a new build out there.
And what about the Nirvana, where the accounting firm has got their operation in the internet and their clients in there talking to each other? When do you foresee that?
So that will happen this financial year. So it will happen before June 2013. More likely that all of those connections will happen in the second half of the financial year, the first half of next calendar year.
So you're saying within the next 12 months that an accounting firm can switch their current practice management suite to the internet, switch their clients to the internet, and get each other talking to each other?
Yep.
Well, congratulations. Looking forward to seeing all that happen. Thanks for the insights. And no doubt we'll be waiting and looking, and the feedback we'll get from accounting firms will tell us, whether those times work. But more importantly, I think the concepts you've spoken about are very real and are going to happen, as you said, whether the accountant likes it or not. So get on the page.
Thank you.
Yep.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Tim.
All right.